Blog Talk Radio.
Rolling. Saturday night, take 8.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Serena BTR-a-thon. Earlier this evening we started it off at 8 o'clock Eastern with Shinduo and Anon Knowledge, talking about radicalization in Turkey and other such doings. That was followed up with Friendly Smoker at 9 Eastern with J-Love himself, Mr. J-Vab, speaking on Turkish politics and the political scene in Turkey. And that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, leads us to this. This is the Justice for Serena Shim show, helping get the story out. Tonight, we are going to be joined by her sister Fatmeh, and my co-host for the evening is the host of The View Up Here, the one and only Mr. Canadian Glenn, who I owe many multitudes of thanks for this, because it was his hard work and his constant communication with the family, and that is what made it work out so well. So, I have 5 clips that I'm going to play for everybody that Glenn has cut for me. So you've got probably about 10 to 14 minutes-ish of show intro going on here. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the motherfucking truth.
This is Serena Shim. She was a United States citizen. She was a daughter, sister, mother, and a journalist. Her family and friends affectionately called her Sassy. Her mission in life was to expose the truth and make the world a better place. While on assignment for PressTV in Turkey, Serena witnessed ISIL militants being transported into Syria on World Food Organization vehicles via Turkey. Serena said that she had gathered evidence to support these claims. It was then that Turkish Intelligence claimed Serena was a spy and sought to arrest her for questioning. Serena was worried. Her next move was to publicly go on air denouncing these accusations and telling the world about her current dilemma in hopes of protecting herself. On October 17, 2014, Serena aired this plea live on PressTV.
I'm very surprised at this accusation. I've even thought of actually approaching Turkish intelligence, and because I have nothing to hide and I've never done anything aside from my job, and I'd like to make that apparent to them. However, I am a bit worried because, as you know, and as the viewers know, that Turkey has been labeled by Reporters Without Borders as the largest prison for journalists. So I am a bit frightened about what they might use against me. We were some of the first people on the ground, if not the first people, to get that story of those Takfiri militants going in through the Turkish border from the Bab al-Hawa Rihanli border, being sent in. I got images of them in World Food Organization trucks. It was very apparent that they were Takfiri militants by their beards and by the clothes that they wore, and they were going in there with NGO trucks. And I just find it very odd. They went to several local residents here, asked about me. The residents said, no, we know her, we have seen her before, we've seen her work, she's not a spy, and they were blatant on going through with the fact that, no, yes, I actually am, and that they told any people that if they see me to bring me in or to give them a phone call. So I find it odd. I don't see why they're taking this action against me at this point. I think that it may be because some of my previous stories that I've aired, because now in the area of Kobani, we haven't been inside. We've been telling the story from the Turkish side of the border. There's other international news agencies there as well. I don't know how they tell their stories or how accurate their stories are, and if that's why they have pinpointed me in this particular incident.
This would be Serena's last on-air report. 2 days later, on October 19th, 2014, Serena Shim and her cousin Judy Irish were traveling down a 3-lane highway. A truck crashed into their car at full speed, not even attempting to stop. After the crash, both women were alive. No police came, only military. Judy Irish was taken to a local hospital, and Serena Shim was taken away to another location. There was no other information available except that sometime after she was taken away, she was killed. All of her belongings, including videos, pictures, reports, and evidence, have mysteriously disappeared. The official story of the Turkish government has changed and changed again. Staged pictures of the accident and multiple stories were released to the public. This case has no shortage of misinformation. The U.S. claims they do not investigate United States citizens killed abroad, even though they have done so more often than not in the past. A media blackout has been imposed. Journalists were being told not to mention Serena Shim. Then, the world went silent about the mysterious death of Serena Shim.
No. Okay, change the topic?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. It's about the journalist Serena Shim, who died in Turkey under very suspicious circumstances. Did her death raise suspicions here at the State Department?
Well, I think we've spoken to this in the briefing room several weeks ago after it happened. I don't have anything to add to what the spokesperson said at the time, though.
But then she died several days after she claimed she had been threatened by the Turkish intelligence. Have you inquired about this? Have you asked questions? Is there really nothing new about this?
Well, I just don't have any update to share with you. Again, this was raised shortly after her death. The spokesperson addressed it. I don't have an update to share with you at this time.
PressTV's American Lebanese descent, Serena Shim, has been killed in a suspicious car accident in Turkey. She was reporting from the Turkish-Syrian border near Kobani and was returning after doing a report on Kobani when her car collided with a truck. The identity and whereabouts of the truck driver remains a mystery. PressTV's taken a closer look.
PressTV's correspondent Serena Shim has been killed in southern Turkey near the Syrian border. Serena was killed in a car accident when she was returning from a report scene in the city of Suruç in Turkey's Urfa province. She was going back to a hotel in Urfa when a car collided with a heavy vehicle. On Friday, Serena told PressTV that the Turkish Intelligence Agency has threatened and accused her of spying, and she feared she may be arrested.
I'm very surprised at this accusation. I've even thought of actually approaching Turkish intelligence, and because I have nothing to hide and I've never done anything aside from my job, and I'd like to make that apparent to them. However, I am a bit worried because, as you know, and as the viewers know, that Turkey has been labeled by Reporters Without Borders as the largest prison for journalists. So I am a bit frightened about what they might use against me. We were some of the first people on the ground, if not the first people, to get that story of those Syrian militants going in through the Turkish border from the Bab al-Hawa Rihanli border being sent in. I got images of them in World Food Organization trucks. It was very apparent that they were Syrian militants by their beards and by the clothes that they wore, and they were going in there with NGO trucks. And I just find it very odd. They went to several local residents here, asked about me. The residents said, no, we know her, we have seen her before, we've seen her work, she's not a spy, and they were blatant on going through with the fact that, no, yes, I actually am, and that they told any people that if they see me to bring me in.
Serena was reporting from the Turkish border near Kobani. She said the accusations might be due to her coverage of Turkey's stance on ISIL's atrocities in Kobani and the recent protests in Turkey.
Kurdish fighters have appealed to fellow Kurds in Iraq to send reinforcements as Turkey refuses to allow Kurds to cross the border and join them in defending the city. Eyewitness reports say the ISIL terrorists keep beheading, raping, and torturing civilians. This man, who just came from Kobani, has witnessed the accounts firsthand.
They believe if they butcher a Kurd, they will go to heaven. This is all because of Turkey.
Kurds here have made several attempts to try and take in humanitarian aid to the besieged city of Kobani, but the Turkish army is lined up across the border, not letting anyone in. They also warn to shoot any people who attempt to go further.
Serena Shim covered reports for PressTV in Lebanon, Iraq, Ukraine, and during Turkey's Gezi Park protests in 2013. She was married and had 2 children.
Is her sister, Fatmeh. Fatmeh, our condolences. Thank you for coming on the show. Is it your view that Turkish intelligence was involved in the death of your sister?
Yes, I would have to say yes, 100%. Any organization or nation that has a relationship with ISIS is responsible for the murder of my sister.
And yet the official report emanating from Turkey saying the responsibility lies with your cousin.
I'm going to have to go against that because when I was in Turkey, I received absolutely no type of information from the Turkish government, and also the information that the Turkish government is giving out. I mean, one day we wake up and we find out that the truck driver had not stopped his truck, proceeded to keep on driving after my sister was hit by his truck. There was no pictures of my sister in the car. They then expressed that they had received the truck driver. They were driving down a highway that was a one-way, 3-lane highway with a median in the middle. So it is very hard for me to believe that...
But it is true that your cousin was driving the car?
Yes, it is.
And that's the only truth you could glean from what we're hearing from Turkey?
That is the only truth. Correct. That is the only truth that we are hearing from Turkey.
So we played that clip of when she said she felt under threat. How much of a threat did she feel from Turkish authorities after the fact that she was reporting on de facto collusion between Turkey and ISIS?
It was a huge threat. She had called me the same time that she had found out that Turkish intelligence were looking for her in the city of Hatay, asking friends where they could locate Serena. She asked me what she should do. She then proceeded to go on live saying that Turkish intelligence were looking for her and expressed her fears.
Western media don't seem to be covering the story that much, which might surprise some because, of course, your sister was a U.S. citizen. Why do you think that is?
Yes, my sister was a U.S. citizen, and it is very shocking to see Western media. Not only are they not covering Serena's story, they did not express their condolences. And my sister, as an American working outside of America, gathering this type of information...
What's the U.S. government's response been to the death of one of their citizens?
Absolutely, positively no response. Nor did they not respond. We received no help from the American government. No condolences. They did not know where Serena was in Turkey, the American embassy in Turkey. Also, I had received my sister, brought her back to Beirut, Lebanon. They called my brother-in-law a week later to ask if Serena was still on Turkish soil.
That's obviously astounding. In fairness, Vice President Joe Biden was echoing comments that Serena made in the sense that Turkey was a big problem when it came to the American fight with ISIS, and then Biden apologized.
I would have to assume that he changed his response because in the same way that my sister spoke the truth and let the world see the truth, there was a reenaction, and the reenaction was my sister was murdered for speaking the truth.
And obviously Britain is involved in this war with the United States. How much do you think the United States government understands the story Serena was trying to put out there about the problem with combating ISIS if a NATO ally is colluding?
Well, I would have to say that they know every single thing that is going on, and that's why they're being so silent, because the information that Serena has collected over the years about ISIS, or whatever its name may be today, because they've changed their name several times, I mean, Serena handed this over to them on a silver platter. So I would have to think that they're well aware of everything that's going on.
And what other help, then, have you got if you haven't been getting help from your government?
I have received absolutely no help from my government at all.
Hopefully messages of support.
No, I'm very sorry. It's very hard for me to say, too. No messages of support from the American government when I have received condolences and invitations to other countries on behalf of my sister's murder.
But what would you say to other journalists? I mean, I should say I knew Serena, so what would you now say, and you were living in Beirut, what would you now say to other journalists who are trying to cover the real fight against ISIS that President Obama is keen to fight, but they don't seem to be winning right now?
I would have to say that we are here in America, in Serena's country now. The only thing that I would have to say to other journalists is that it is going to be very hard for them to get out any type of truth when the Western mass media is spoon-feeding people what they want them to believe. And
what are you and your family now going to do as regards justice for her?
To get the word of what has happened to Serena, we need help from other people. The only thing that we are pulling on now is the social media, which is a huge help, and we've found people from all around the world who are supporting us and helping us.
And just one last question, Fatmeh. Serena herself, before her death, expressed fears that she would be imprisoned. Turkey, known for being the largest prison for journalists. I mean, allegations that she was killed by Turkish intelligence, but why didn't they just arrest her and imprison her?
Well, I'm going to have to say that the only reason she was not arrested is because Serena, God bless her, was very light on the ground, and she had been through many war zones and those things, and at the time of her murder, they were looking for her.
And now, so what next now? I mean, is there any kind of action you can take against the Turkish government? Any action? I mean, the United States said they don't investigate deaths in foreign countries. I didn't really understand that response from them. What is next for you and the family?
Well, apparently they don't investigate deaths. The only death that I do see them not investigating is Serena's death.
Fatmeh Shim, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And going.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a presentation clips that were put together and sent to me by Canadian Glenn, who got them from one of our guests who will be joining us as soon as they call in. And joining us now, of course, is the host of The View Up Here, Mr. Canadian Glenn. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening, sir. You didn't play the final clip, but that's cool.
Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry, I only went through 4. I'll save 5 here for when we get some more callers coming in. I want to point out that on Monday, the 19th of October, that is the anniversary of Serena's death, her murder, whichever you prefer to call it. And there will be a tweet storm starting at 1:30 p.m. After 30 minutes of silence using the hashtag Justice For Serena. If you are online Monday, please take part. I'm not a big fan of tweet storms, but this is one of those stories that makes me want to spread the word. So that's what.
There was one tweet storm already, which was on October 10th, which would have been Serena's 30th birthday. So the one on Monday is the 1-year anniversary of her death. So, there's what we're doing tonight. Tomorrow on a non-UK radio, they will also be highlighting this issue. So it's getting a lot of attention in a hurry after, not much happening for quite a while. I believe it was the second short clip, about 50 seconds, with the State Department official giving less than no information. Just, is almost like I don't accept the premise of that reality. They just don't want to talk about it at all. So
yeah.
The family's pretty much been on their own for a year.
Well, the where she said that she was told that the U.S. government doesn't investigate deaths in foreign countries. I find that a little fucking hard to believe. If that had been a U.S. oil worker, a billionaire who was on vacation, even a millionaire on vacation, they would have been all over that shit. There's so much cloak and dagger that goes on in that part of the world that, she was unfortunately, she said something, and unfortunately she paid a price for it. And, the world, this is going to sound very strange, but because of her death, the world will learn so much about what goes on over there that could end up hopefully being a lasting legacy in the battle against terrorism and censorship of said terrorism and the shit that goes on behind the scenes. ISIL is a nasty group. They obviously are getting help from a whole multitude of different groups, and she said something and she paid the ultimate price for it, and that is really sad. It most certainly is. So there's let's see, thanks to WVU Soldier for the link that he just dropped. Everybody should have a look at that. It is a very interesting statement from state.gov,
which says nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't really mention anything of specifics for this, and I wouldn't. Here's the thing. I'll come clean here because I'm one of the people that thinks that ISIL was created by the CIA. They were funded by the CIA. Now, whether or not they were ISIL when they started being funded, they were like, oh, you're going to go fight these guys? Here, have some money, have some guns. Here, we'll train you. Oh, what do you mean now you're going to take over the region and use our own weapons to kill innocent people? That I totally blame the United States government for the present situation involving ISIS or ISIL or whatever the hell you want to call them. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Alrighty, I'll tell you what. We're going to bring on our first guest. This is a man who's been on this longer than anybody that I know of. We are bringing on Tim Bestbuds. Good evening, Tim.
Hey, Glenn, how you doing?
Not too bad.
Good evening, Tim.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, Pup, how are you?
I'm going to leave you.
Oh, no, go ahead, Glenn. I'll shut up.
I'm going to leave you two to talk about what Tim's done, how Tim's been involved, and I'm going to check for our other guest on the board.
Alrighty. First of all, thank you very much for taking the time tonight to call in and talk to myself and Glenn. It's been a really interesting 2 hours so far tonight. We've heard everything from radicalization of people in Turkey to the Turkish political scene. I must say that your clip that Glenn gave me The second one was powerful. Very well done. I want to thank you for providing that for us. And I'd like to ask you to explain to our listeners what exactly and how exactly you came about to helping this family with this cause.
Okay, yeah, you're breaking up a little, just so you know. I believe it was back like the beginning of November. I got a text, or actually it was a tweet saying, "Fuck Anonymous, you don't want to help with Serena Shim, you guys are worthless." And I was like, whoa, who's Serena Shim? What is this all about? And I started looking into it more, and then some other Anons who are already looking into it, we all kind of connected, and Op Serena Shim started basically the end of November, last November, and it's been going on ever since. It just had a major upsurge in the last 2 months, though. And I thank a non-Intel group for doing that. They really helped us out a lot with the pushing it.
All right, everybody. Serena's sister, Fatmeh Shim, is on the phone with us. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. It's very nice to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, good.
Thank you.
Fatmeh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for getting up early to join us this evening.
It's the least that I could do for my sister.
Now, I know there are a few things specifically that you really haven't addressed before. And, you know, something that kind of gets lost in the general discussion is that Serena was a daughter, was a sister. She was also a mother. How are her two children? How are they after all this? How are they doing?
Well, I have to be honest with you. Ali and Ajmal do not know what has happened to their mother, but they do know how hard of a worker that she was, and they do know that she had to take time away from them to go and report in other countries and in war zones. So they still think that their mom's in Turkey or Ukraine or Syria or Iraq, and they're really proud. Wow,
I did not know. I did not know that. I don't find it surprising that this hasn't been mentioned before. Wow. Is there any plan, or?
Honestly, that's a really hard subject for me, and that's something that I like to leave for their father when he's prepared. I think the kids kind of get the feeling that that's a hard subject for me, and they kind of stay away from it. I hear them if I'm in a different room talking to their father about their mother, but they really don't bring up the subject to me, which I have to say is a godsend. But I have came to Beirut, Lebanon now for the 1-year anniversary, and her daughter was under the assumption that she was coming to see her mother.
I see. Now, I know we talked about this before the show. You are in Beirut now. What is going on in the Middle East about your sister outside of Turkey? You were mentioning some awareness going on in Beirut.
Definitely. Being American, and me and my sister both being American, it's very saddening to me because she did work here in Beirut, and she did work in Iraq, and she did work in Syria and Ukraine, and she was in Kobani, and she's got a huge amount of support from these countries for the truth seeking that she did, but basically America has been very silent about it. Here in Lebanon, we're having the 1-year anniversary, and if you go into the city where me and Serena were living, there's posters of her, there's honor, there's a lot of words that have been written in Arabic, which is hard for me to translate, but basically expressing the work that she did and the hero that she is. And, it kind of gives me a peace of mind to drive down the streets and see that a year later after my sister's passing, that it's not a number that has been lost, that she has not became a number, that, she has really, set it in stone, her work, and people have honored it, and they're still honoring it.
Excellent. That is excellent. And again, that just shows the difference in how things are reported or not reported You know, I mean, like you said, and like you said in the interview with RT, the American government has done absolutely nothing to help the family, but yet on the ground, you know, on the ground in Beirut, nobody has forgotten.
No, not only in Beirut. I mean, to tell you about the funeral, I had people from Kobani coming screaming, "She fought for us, we will fight for her." But what really saddens me is the fact that it was such an honor for us to grow up in America and coming to a third world country. That's when we realized it was a blessing. And just being in grade school or being in high school over there, my sister would always tell me, she would say, "We're so blessed that just being installed from school with such passion and feeling that people should be treated in a certain way and human rights," that she took that just from the grade school in America and used that as success here in a third world country or any third world country that she went to. So for them not to give any acknowledgement after her seeing what they have installed her with as such a blessing, it was really saddening to me.
Yeah, that is rather contradictory, you know. The United States is supposed to represent this great beacon of democracy and equality, and yet your sister supports it and lives it, and when the time comes...
And it's the key to her success.
Yeah, she used that in her career, and it won her great respect, and I'm sure access and trust. And yet the nation that instilled it in her does nothing.
No. And other than that, the fact that she had delicate information that she was handing over on a silver platter, it was kind of thrown by the wayside.
Well, we've seen that before. When evidence disappears, nobody wants to talk about it anymore. It's almost like, oh, did that happen? Oh, okay. You know?
Yeah.
We have a question from one of our listeners in the chat room here. This comes from WVU Soldier. He would like to know, did the Iranian government have anything to say? Did they mention the espionage narrative at all?
The Iranian government, which the news channel that she worked for was owned by the Iranian government. They did give me their blessings, which, you know, I mean, it is consoling and it's nice to hear, and I expected to hear it from our homeland. Other than that, I mean, I didn't receive or hear anything else except for condolences.
Interesting. It has been noted in chat room that PressTV was going to do an investigation. They said they would and then did nothing. So,
to my knowledge, no investigation was taken except for the investigation of the Turkish government.
Well, I know.
We don't know how that's going to go.
Well, you have to check the boxes on the form, right?
Yeah, that is very true.
Tim, you've spent a lot of time around the narrative, or lack thereof, the story of Serena's death. How have you seen the rest of the international media compared to something like Free AJ staff and Peter Graced and Mohammed Fatmeh? You know, they were only imprisoned. They didn't lose their lives, and yet none of these other international organizations seem to have anything to say about Serena. Why do you think this is?
I think it's because if the truth comes out, a lot of people, really so-called important people in this country and the Turkish government, will look really bad. Our government, they use ISIS to keep us scared and to control us, and we have to have a war on terror so people can get rich, and then they don't want the narrative to come out that the Turkish government, who are the allies of the United States, are working alongside of ISIS, who are supposedly our enemies. That's what I believe is the heart of everything being silent. mainstream media works for governments and corporations that pay and own our government. That's kind of where I think it lies.
It does seem to be the pattern, yeah.
Well, we're exposing this story to a different area of the internet. This is more hovers on the lower end of mainstream. The venue that we're on tonight, I think, is one of the last bastions of free speech left in the world, because we are a corporation. We don't have an agenda. Our agenda is helping people get their story out, and whether we throw things against the wall and see what sticks. And nobody has, at least I can't speak for Glenn, but nobody has approached me to say, hey, you can't do this, or you can't say this, or please avoid doing this for the greater good. Everybody has said, we need to help support this. We need to push this narrative out there. We've got to get her story told. And I find it pretty amazing that the only news article from a mainstream news in regards to this, believe it or not, boys and girls, was from Fox News. So even Fox
that
News
blew my mind too.
Yeah, if they think something smells, something's really got to stink. And when the far right of U.S. reported the story, that was the only one outside of the link that was sent to me. All the other stories I found on this were less than a paragraph, on bylines, on nothing major. The only major write-ups come from overseas, which I don't know if they're discounting the fact that she was not a born American citizen. She was, she was a U.S. citizen, but because she wasn't mom, dad, and apple pie, some agencies are turning their nose to this story. But I was intrigued the moment Glenn said, hey, you should have a look at this. And that was what, Glenn, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, if not maybe a little longer, that we've been working on getting tonight?
I know it was in the spring. That's about as far as I can remember directly. But, the thing about Fox covering this is a Benghazi effect. This is something that is dirty, and there's a Democratic president. That's why Fox is on it. If it was a Republican, MSNBC would be on it. That's the way it works down there. But
can I say something real quick about Benghazi, though? We're doing an investigation on Americans killed overseas in Benghazi, but yet State Department says they don't investigate Americans killed overseas when they're talking about Serena Shim. You see the stuff we're up against over here? It's ridiculous.
Good point. But
yeah,
Fatmeh, I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
We talked about this a little bit too. It's not like Serena just got to Turkey. She was there since what, 2012?
Correct, 100%. And I would just like to clarify something that Serena is an American citizen, a full American citizen. We are not Lebanese citizens. My father is from Lebanese descent. Serena went to Turkey in 2012, and at that time, she was living and working in Turkey, where she was working with a production company, which all production companies in Turkey are owned by Erdogan. So everything that comes out of these production companies is filtered. Her last visit to Turkey, when she was going to Kobani, this is where Serena was doing her own productions, her own videotaping, and basically working on her own, getting this important information. So that's why it's so important for people to understand why what happened to her at that time, not us as a family that we're speaking in a vulnerable type of way.
Oh, I will apologize. I misread the part about her your guys' citizenship, and I apologize for that. That was a misquote. by or a misstep
by myself. And I appreciate it 100%, but if I didn't correct you, my mother would kill me. She's from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and she takes it really seriously. She raised us on her own, so we are 100% Americans. We eat grits.
Well, I do believe that your mom is in the chat room. If I'm not mistaken, Glenn, is that correct?
Yes, it appears so, yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. She is hi Mom, sorry for the misstep. Don't beat my ass. I will behave and be a good dog.
But I mean, the issue, she was working in Turkey for a long time, and there was no problem. There was, even when she went into Kobani and she was around the border and the camps and the Turkish military, things were fine until she saw what she saw with the World Food Organization vehicles, and then everything changed. Yes,
of course, and that's 100% right. And I have to agree with Tim. And what has happened is that we started off with something called Jabhat al-Nusra, and then we went to Jaysh Suri al-Hur, which is the Free Syrian Army, and it has branched off into all different things. So I think one of the benefits that happened with Serena, because we have so many different branches of these organizations, is that when she had caught these people and had got this delicate information, they have no, for a lack of words, I want to say top dogs. Mm-hmm. So that's when the ball was lost. And a lot of people have the question like, okay, well, she got this delicate information and she was still living in Turkey. Well, at that time when she was living in Turkey, like I said, she was working with a production company that's owned by Erdogan. So everything is filtered. And that's when the eye became on to her. Serena was contacted by her friends that are working, or normal citizens that are part of the resistance, and when they were contacted by Turkish Intelligence, they had contacted Serena, and that time is when she made the decision if she was going to go on to air, or if she was going to go to Kobani, or if she was going to run away, or what she was going to do. One of the things that Serena did tell me for a long time, because, the whole point of Serena being a journalist was to go into the government. And when she got to the point where she was going to be in the Lebanese government is when she decided that that's not what she wanted. And as a sister, I thought that was the highest goal that she could get to. And I asked her why, and she said, Fatmeh, if I'm going to go into the government, that means that there is nothing that I can change for humankind. There is no good that I can do. This is what I need to do. And that's why she chose to be a journalist and to be a truth speaker.
There we go.
Do you this is going to, where are her kids now? Are they with are they with her with the kid's dad, or are they with you, or with other family?
Well, Serena is a really special soul, and even me going to Turkey, which I brought my sisters from Turkey to Lebanon 48 hours illegally, everything was already set up for me. And when all of this went down, I had got maybe about 300 calls from the news company that she worked for saying that the children are for you, Fatmeh. The children need to stay with you. And Serena has a great husband who takes very, very good care of them, which he still does too now. We live together. The children are both with us. And I'm basically the same person that I was before, and I give them the same love that I loved them before the passing of my sister. But I'm there to install them with the things that my sister installed me with. And she worked very hard to install me with all the knowledge, being that I didn't really go on with my education, and it wasn't something that I wanted to continue. She would take me onto the ground, onto the soil, into these war zones, because she knew that's how I would comprehend, and installed me with great, great things. And I think that's what she wanted for me to do with her children. But they have an amazing father who loves them as a father and a mother and a grandfather and all of those things. And they're okay. They're in America now. And I have to say one thing. I'm very upset with how the American government dealt with me and my family, with no sympathy at all. But it was the first place that we ran back to, and they welcomed us with open arms. So I'm not against America. I'm just against how they dealt with this situation with me and my family.
Oh, absolutely. I've just been discussing in chat about whether or not you guys have a GoFundMe or a WePay up to help. And I know that you guys aren't seeking any financial donations or anything like that. You're looking for support for, getting justice for your sister. But I would like to mention that if you folks do find yourselves in a bind, please consider starting one. I will help spread the word and get you guys some help if it's needed. And I'm also going to put a call out for any lawyers in the U.S. or abroad that hear this and are willing to help out because they need some legal help getting the Justice Department and the OC or OSCE to look after and get something going on behalf of this. So, hey, Jay Lederman or Tor Eklund, even Sue Basco, you crazy old coot.
Let's not get carried away.
Yeah, you guys need to find us somebody to help. You guys will represent somebody like Derek Lostutter. This was an American citizen who spread the true truth and paid a price for it. So come on, guys and gals out there. One of y'all needs to step up.
No, I hope Ms. Becker is listening. She may be able to help out, play an intermediary role. We'll see.
There we go. Miss Becker is she is a sweet, sweet lady, and she is smart as a whip. At Miss Becker on Twitter.
Yeah,
you should all check her out.
And is looking towards a California bar. So there you go.
Yeah, that is always a good thing. And now, have you? I know you said that everybody that you've run into while you've been overseas has been very helpful. Have you run into any? What's the term? You run into any shit disturbers over there, Fatmeh, that have maybe caused you any issues? Have you run into any pro-government people that are, trying to rock the boat?
Here overseas, absolutely not. And, that's something that my father brings up a lot, and he feels that he has to explain the work that his daughter did. But like I said, her work here is honored. She has it set in stone. Overseas, I haven't really ran into anything. But in America, I have been given the cold shoulder. And I think for the fact that she's worked with Iran is why it became very taboo. But here overseas, I haven't received anything but support. Not only just in the Middle East. I mean, Serena took her fans very seriously, and she gave them a lot of her time. And she has supporters. She has truth seekers out there just like her. Once again, I'm going to say it saddens me to say that the only problem I have been facing is getting them acknowledgement or any legal help or any acknowledgement from the American government.
Well, I just dropped in our chat. I could never ever pronounce her Twitter name, but she is an activist. She is of Iranian descent.
That would be Shoka Fayasib.
Yes. She is a sweet lady, and she is always busting her butt, helping, and she might have some contacts in Iran that might be of use to you folks in maybe finding out some more information or spurring the Iranian government to maybe ask some questions. So,
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you, but this is honestly how I feel, and I haven't expressed it yet till now with you. I feel that if my sister would have died in Iraq or died in Syria or died in any other Islamic country, she would not have gotten the coverage that she got on PressTV just because our so-called allies for them. I think the fact that my sister did die in Turkey, that's why she got the coverage that she got, because it benefited them. I'm also upset with Iran. I mean, we received no help from Iran when I was there in Turkey on the ground bringing my sister home. the only thing that we received for them was apologies, which is appreciated, and a little bit of coverage. And I will repeat myself. The only reason I feel that she got that coverage is because it was in their benefit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean that's a logical conclusion. I mean, news organizations, doesn't matter where they're from, it's all about getting people to watch. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, maybe they would have said absolutely nothing if Serena was not working for them. Who knows? Because Al Arabiya has said almost nothing. Al Jazeera has said almost nothing. So, yeah, I think that explanation makes a fair amount of sense.
It's heartbreaking that the people in the U.S. have the freedom of speech and they use it for such stupid things. And it's true. I've rallied against, just because you have the freedom of speech doesn't mean you have to use it. She was using the power of the press to tell the world actually what was going on. Like, when I found out that she reported that ISIL militants were jumping into NGO trucks, like the world that were tagged like World Health Organization, I was blown away. That World Food Organization. That blew my mind. That I was like, how is this? And I don't mean to offend. How is this woman in Turkey able to break that story and actually have a first-hand account of it taking place? And CNN, Fox,
Reuters.
Everything's, yeah. Like where was Reuters or the AP or the UN or somebody? How come the people, and I love the Kurds. I think the Kurds are fighting a valiant fight in Turkey for their freedom and against ISIL. How come we didn't hear more from the Kurdish resistance as to, hey, this is going on? The whole follow the money thing over in Turkey and the Middle East as to where people are getting their aid, their guns, their ammo. I think that is probably the main reason why Anderson Cooper isn't standing in Turkey right now saying, how come nobody's talking about the death of this American woman who spoke the truth and paid with her life like that? Most days I'm disgusted with the American government. Today I'm really disgusted. Like, I'm offended that, especially with a liberal Democrat president in office, whether it's George Bush or Jeb Bush or Donald Trump. You know what? I bet you if Donald Trump was president right now, he probably would have done more about this because he could spin it. And they need to realize that the power and freedom of a free press is imperative to everybody. It's not a political issue. If the people can't rely on reporters to get the truth as to what's out there, then, it's just corporate branded crap. But she wasn't pushing an agenda. She reported on something she's seen. When they came after her, she reported that they were coming after her.
Mm-hmm.
I am so sorry for your family's loss, because I wish I would have had the opportunity to interview your sister, because something tells me that she was a very powerful woman.
And she was. That's another thing that I'd like to bring up. My sister did work for Iran, and after her death, I did expect more from them. But I asked her, and she worked with them for 10 years. And I asked her, and I said, Sassy, I said, you're comfortable with them. There's sanctions on there's sanctions on Iran, so she would go 4 or 5 months without being paid. And I would say, well, why don't you do a different, news station, or why don't you do something more fluffy? It's affecting you. Everything that she was seeing was affecting her. It changed who she was. And she told me, she said, Fatmeh, when I first came into PressTV, in the media, they might find a little piece of something, and they take it and they make it something totally different. But it all starts from a little piece of what they saw or what they took. And she said, I tried to do that one time, and they shut me down. And they said, you need to report exactly what you saw and what happened. And she said, I had so much respect, and I made that decision that these are the people that I would work for the rest of my career.
There you go. I mean, I'd just like to add, we were talking about the lack of any real effort from PressTV to pursue this, but then I think you have to admit, on the other hand, when Puppy mentioned where was Reuters, where was AP, where was everybody else, I think Serena got the access and the freedom to report that she did was because she worked for PressTV.
Exactly, and I think that's all that Serena wanted. Even though we didn't get the acknowledgement or maybe even the investigations from Iran, she wouldn't have chosen anyone else to work for because that's what she was. I don't even think that maybe Iran or the news station that she works for completely understands what not what she was. I think she had a better understanding of what they were, and that's what she showed, and that's what she did.
Yeah, exactly. It was something that was working, and it was derailed. But I mean, just for an example, I'm sure most Americans remember who James Foley is. When James Foley was kidnapped by ISIS, it was in the headlines for weeks. And it was justification for airstrikes in Syria.
Yes.
And then,
that is 100% correct.
And then James Foley is killed, and it's the basis for involvement in Syria by the U.S. government. But yet, Serena, an American citizen, finds evidence that a NATO ally is doing something that is completely against the narrative. And where's the coverage like James Foley? It's not there.
I have to give my condolences to James Foley's family because, one thing that whoever is listening to us needs to understand that nothing really does come easy, and I don't think I don't think that James Foley was killed and the next day that he got the coverage. I do believe his family fought very hard to get him that coverage. But that brings us back to Serena and what James was doing and what Serena was doing and why she was given the cold shoulder. What was Serena bringing to the media that the American government didn't want their people to know, or any other government that didn't give her coverage want their people to know?
Yeah. It paints a pretty obvious picture. Let's put it that way. There's just no excuse. And, even the Reporters Without Borders organization, they were instrumental in the James Foley issue. But even that organization, Reporters Without Borders, has made no public statement about Serena to this day. Something wrong there.
Another thing that I'd like to say is that a lot of Serena had a lot of followers, and some of them were reporters, and a lot of reporters here in Beirut, when they started reporting on what was going on with Serena, were told that they would better keep their mouths closed than to lose their job.
Yeah, that is a little.
I can only imagine in the mainstream media. I mean, they probably can't even. They're not even allowed for anybody to hear them take a breath if that's what's happening over here.
It's being asked in the chat room as to who told them not to say anything. If you could elaborate, if you can, great. If you can't, I totally understand.
I will definitely elaborate, but this is hearsay. That they took orders from Iran not to say anything.
That's interesting. Oh, see, at this rabbit hole, it's funny. As we were planning this marathon tonight, some Antichrist of 73, who hosts a show called Third Rail Radio, which is doing a show after this one tonight to continue the conversation that we're having. He talked about rabbit holes and how you can, we said you could disappear on one and spend days following link after link after link as to where a story goes. And there are so many interesting factors that, a lot of people in InfoSec and in internet security and whatnot, you could call them spooks, you can call them, government information specialists, whatever you want to call them.
Gray hats.
Yeah, the gray hats. This should be, you boys out there need to grab yourself a 6-pack of Red Bull, some pizza pockets, and start scouring for the puzzle that is this story is immense, and I bet you that if we press hard enough, and the folks, because you know what, the internet usually wins. We need to press this case and find out where the rabbit hole leads, because I think it would be an interesting story. And I know tomorrow, Tim, I believe you are going to be on Anon UK Radio.
Yes.
Continuing this to spread the word, and I really appreciate you doing that. They're good folks over there. I think that we need to get more people talking about this, and I think the higher ups, Joe Rogan needs to be brought up to speed on this. We need D. Seaman, if you follow him on Twitter. He used to be a reporter. We need to get the folks at Vice News on this. Somebody needs to do something, and I'm just glad that we're doing this to try and help. But somebody above my pay grade needs to take an interest in this story, and I think if we can find some of the links between Iran, the U.S., Turkey, and whatnot, I think if we can find that, more of the mainstream will start asking questions, because they're questions that need to be answered.
Well, I think what was mentioned earlier, I mean, in this day and age with corporate news, and news has to make money, the only thing that's going to sway their direction on something that they don't necessarily want to see is public noise. That's the only thing. It's when the people will not shut up about it. Then they know there's money in it. Then they show up. So, the Serena issue needs to be heard. And that's going to come from us, not the media. So, this is one of those cases where we have to inform the media. Then it'll happen.
Well,
Suicide Girls Radio, happen. If you're up, you need to pick this up. Amber Lion, you follow me on Twitter, you need to pick this up.
Yep, this can be done. And I hope this is the kickoff for much bigger and better things, because the family deserves answers. Plain and simple.
Ron Breinart, you need to get on this story. You'll send me 22,000 DMs about Hillary Clinton's emails. You need to do a blog on this, Mr. Ron Breinart. At Ron Brin on Twitter. If you're listening, this should be your next story. This should be your only story. You should do this until they listen. This is bigger than Neil Rawhauser. It's bigger than Bullyville. This is bigger than everything. Because if they can silence a reporter, sorry, I'm pissed off, Glenn. I'm going to go have a cigarette. I'm going to leave you to talk.
Alrighty. Take a break. That's cool. Now, I know we kind of discussed this before the show too. The history in Turkey, the last, say, 5 years, it's not been a very compliant internet world. There's been lots of temporary shutdowns of social media sites. Red Hack is a Turkish group. You know, they've had their share, but yet lately Erdogan has really cracked down on cyber activity in Turkey. Do you think that has had a big effect on the lack of exposure for Serena and her situation? Either one of you two.
I do. I think 100%, and I think that I get the feeling that Erdogan thinks he's maybe 300 years backwards, and he's going to control the country the same way it was controlled in that time, and that's what he's trying to do. I mean, he has a strong hold, a very, very strong hold on everything that's going on in Turkey. I mean, if it comes to social media, or even comes to the production companies, or whatever, he's doing it, and a blind man could see. I mean, I was on the Turkey-Syrian border with my sister while the ambulances were coming in, while ISIS was sitting in circles, and doing their drugs before they go into Syria, with confidence, because they can just walk through open borders. So I mean, I don't know. Not that I don't know, I do know, but I don't have that much of political background. But I mean, he's got a really big, strong ally if he's doing it that obviously.
Well, I would have to say that Erdogan, in a lot of ways, reminds me of Vladimir Putin. Maybe it's just the way he carries himself, or the way he speaks to a crowd. They seem like the same animal to me. Kind of also like Saddam Hussein. But that's just my opinion.
I think it's bigger than that, because in history the Turks controlled half of the world, and I really feel that they've put into his mind that he's going to come back and control the world. That history is going to repeat itself in his time, and he's going to be the one who's going to have the capabilities to bring that part of history back.
Wow. Well, I think he might run into a little opposition with that concept, but I mean, the way governments are in so-called first world countries these days, I think everybody's got just a little taste of fascism in them. Some a little more than others, some a little more obvious than others. But again, what's one of the biggest factors in allowing that to happen? It is the strangulation and the silencing of a free press. What do you think about that, Tim?
I think any reporter that wants to keep their job probably wouldn't report on this issue, right? That's what's happening. They have a lot of control over what people can do and say if you have their career in your hand. And then you're owned by different corporations that are in connection with our government. It's all just a big stupid game almost for them. That's the way I see it.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, news has to make money now. Networks don't do news as a service. Yeah, it's not a service. There's no social contract. There's no nothing. It's a division. It has to turn a profit. That's the price we pay, I guess.
That's the problem.
That's the price we pay, I guess. I mean, Turkey has established itself as the leading prison of journalists in the world, which, is rather surprising considering some of the other players out there, like Somalia or North Korea or Israel, or Ukraine, but it's Turkey, a NATO ally. It's very smelly. And it doesn't make sense that it's such a small marginal issue day to day in the Western media. The whole thing smells. But again, you know, like, I've never seen a tweet storm prepared like this in my life. I've never seen this kind of work go into a tweet storm. So whoever's responsible for that, I salute you. That's a lot of work. Well done.
Yeah, that's Seven and his little family over there. He's on here right now on the chat. They did an amazing job. They raised the bar for paste bins and tweet sheets forever now.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's
a new standard.
Yeah.
It's a new standard. And the thing is, there is so much information that is out there about Serena, about her work, about what she found, and about what happened to her. It is out there, you know. I mean, I found that doing research for this show. I was like, okay, well, how much am I actually going to find? Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, you know, the overall amount of information is being controlled. What is out there, you can find it. So, you know, it's not like you're behind everybody. Everybody has the same amount of information, well, within reason. So there's a lot of information that can be spread, and it should appeal to a lot of people once they learn the facts of what happened. And once they learn that the family has been trying for what is going to be 1 year, and they haven't gotten anywhere. And their government hasn't helped. And nobody has helped, except people around the world. So that's why we're doing this. We're trying to expose it. And, you know, we're very appreciative of Serena's sister to join us. I understand, you know, it's been a difficult month for everybody. You wanted to do this, so God damn it, we're doing it, and we're going to make sure it matters.
Yeah, Glenn, I really appreciate you guys doing this show. I think it's so important that people get the word out because, like you said, mainstream media is not doing it, so it's up to the people to do it.
Yeah.
Seven just posted on the tweet sheet and the paste bin again for the people who are on the chat down there. They can get those links down there.
Right on. Right on. Well, Fatmeh, what else would you like to talk about?
You know, I wanted to tell you that, you know, you made me, you kind of gave me, you gave me a great feeling right now when you said, you know, God damn it, we got to do this. A big supporter of Serena, and my grandfather, who installed her with a lot of things, which would be my mother's father. You know, that's how he would talk, and you know, he would tell her, you know, God damn it, Serena, you know, you're gonna do it, you're gonna be the best, and you know, he had a lot of faith in her, and you made me feel with those words, you know, that he was back here with us, and you know, giving her that support and that push. And that's another thing that I have to say for my grandfather that was following Serena. You know, my father's Muslim and my mother's Christian, and you know, my grandfather never asked us about that. He never, you know, he was a really straightforward guy, and he would come home every day from work and pick me and my sister up, and we would sit at his house. And I think that's where she got it from. You know, she didn't care, you know, what your religion was, what your political standpoint was. You know, she on a personal level would love you, but what was wrong, and what was right, and she was going to say it. And, you know, I always say that, you know, when someone dies, they might leave things for you. It might be something material or children or money. And other than the fact that she did leave me her children and she did leave me what was left of whatever was hers, she left me with the best thing ever, and that is she left me with a school. The school, she took me and she gave me the school of information. And like I said, I never liked school, and she figured out how to make it get into my brain. And I don't think there's not one. I think the only reason that she took me to all of these countries and had me standing next to her is so I could now speak. And I do believe that, Serena's work will go on and her truth seeking will go on, even though that she is in her grave, through the mouth of people who love her and through my mouth and through truth seekers. And, it's just a blessing. It's hard for me to understand sometimes how she had such a big effect on people simply through Facebook. And I remember sitting with her and being like, get off your phone. We're sitting together, and she would tell me, my fans or my followers or, and I was like, do you think you're famous, Sassy? Come on, chill out. And she took it seriously. And every single one of those fans sent me a message. She helped me. She helped me when I was divorcing my wife, or, she helped me when I was going through a hard time, or, Serena, she gave everyone knowledge. And, a lot of people, they might know something and give you a little piece of it, but they don't give you everything. And she really gave it all.
Well, I mean, I think that's obvious. I think that came through in her reporting, too. And I wish the circumstances were different, but when she made that final report to PressTV about what the situation was, and with MIT telling people that, oh no, if you see her, she's a spy, you have to call her in. And they're like, no, she's not. I mean, just the way that she got that across, you could tell, this is for real. This is happening right now.
She wasn't scared. I remember I never watched my sister on TV until that time that she went on the air, and she called me and she said, Falky, this is what's happening. I called Iran. They told me, do what makes you comfortable. What do you think I should do? And I told her, Sassy, come home. And she said, no, I'm going on air. And she went on air, and I remember sitting on my bed watching her, the first time I ever watched her, and I called her after that interview, and I said, you were shooting bullets. You shot bullets for those words you said. I mean, she was absolutely amazing. I have to give respect for, I don't understand why journalists aren't getting the respect that they're not getting, because, even if they're sitting, behind a desk, these people are writing, and the words that they're writing are bombs that are going off, or bullets that are being shot, and, even the soldiers that are coming from America and going into these Middle Eastern countries, I respect them. And they're standing on one side and they're fighting for what they believe in. My sister stood in the middle of two sides. She really wanted to get the people's words out, and that's why I'm so happy I have people like you and like Tim and anybody who's on this chat right now and giving us the support, because that's who she was.
Right on.
And I don't think until after her death, being my older sister, I don't think until after her death, I always thought that maybe she was the only truth seeker, or that she was maybe something, something from God. But, I mean, now after her death, seeing people standing next to us and, trying to get this word out, there are people like Serena, and it's a blessing. It makes me be able to put my head on the pillow at night.
That's a great statement. Now, it's come
Absolutely.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, I was just angrily tweeting at all the top presidential candidates why they haven't said squat about the murder of an American TV reporter. So.
Right in. Now, it's come up in chat that there have been some that have said that Serena was a spy. Do you have any comment on that, on people who have that point of view?
Yeah, of course I do. Serena, she did speak the truth, but being a reporter, you meet a lot of people and they have different political views, and some of the closest people to Serena were people who were in the government and had totally different political views than her. So her being a spy, or, I don't understand, being a spy for who? Who is she being a spy for? Isn't the whole world against this war on ISIS? So, isn't she a hero?
Very, very good point. Very good point. Just the surface of it. You have Syrian rebels, supposedly radicals. You have World Food Organization vehicles. You have a NATO ally that is supposed to have a closed border to military activity. And then you have the American reporter who was in the right place at the right time. You know?
That
I would expect it to.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I would expect it to be, with everything going on in Turkey, I would expect it to be, maybe planned by them a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. It's very sloppy. I mean, it's clearly people are walking through the borders. Clearly they're bringing in, they're bringing in ISIS members in these United Food Organizations, bringing them into Syrian refugee camps, saying that Syrians are in there when there are no women and children in these camps. And I can't believe that it's not getting any mainstream media, that in broad daylight something like this could be going on.
I would think that in the middle of a presidential election season that we're presently in, that not one of the candidates has brought this up. That's why I just tweeted at them, which, they probably won't respond to me because of the name of my Twitter, because it puts people off a little bit. But the fact that somebody hasn't grabbed a hold of this, and I hate to I'm not making light, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions, but if I was running for office and I wanted to put a real issue out there, instead of debating which candidate is going to be talking to the folks from Black Lives Matter, I would be asking, if I was a Republican, I would be asking the ruling party, how come you haven't done anything about the death of a U.S. citizen in Turkey? And why aren't you curious as to what she reported on that caused her to get killed? And if I was a Democrat, I would be saying, we're going to do a better job than the current government, who didn't answer the questions as to why an American citizen was murdered in Turkey, and the current administration didn't do anything about it. This is a interesting, it is a fascinating, and it is a downright despicable story, because this is a movie plot. How many times have you seen in the movie that somebody sees something that they're not supposed to see, and they end up doing the right thing, and they end up dead? There's been hundreds of movies like that, and now it happens in real life, and not a word. So, I must commend your family, because the fact that you guys are still going strong a year later, and now it seems to actually be gaining some momentum, that I just can't say anything more about you folks. You're just tough as nails, all of you, and you got my love and affection and my cactus.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's, like you said, nobody is talking about it. And why? Well, if you're going to get to the position to be in a spot where you may become the president of the United States, it's not like you're not connected. Every one of those people in both parties has skin in this game. And they're not talking about it because they're not talking about it. It goes against what they need to get to the ultimate chair in the Oval Office. So, it's collusion. When something is blacked out to this extent, it's been decided. It's not an accident.
Yeah, it's disgusting is what it is. And as it's being pointed out in the chat, you don't get to kill an American journalist overseas, or an American citizen overseas for that matter, without somebody on this side of the pond saying it's okay. And it's, they just showed how much they give a shit about innocent lives when they bombed the hell out of that hospital. And then claimed they didn't know it was a hospital, but guess what? The truth is coming out that they, in fact, were told repeatedly that it was a hospital. So, once again, my disdain for the U.S. government grows a little more deeper. And I'm not even American. And, grr. You folks in the States better get out there and vote and put some real people who want to do some shit, just because the clowns you got running your country at the moment aren't doing you justice. They aren't doing their citizenry justice, and they certainly are not doing anything to support this family and get answers and hold those accountable who are responsible for what has transpired here, and that is disgusting. And it all lies on your shoulders, Mr. Obama. Sorry, muting again. I had to screen some calls.
Alrighty. Well, Tim, I mean, what do you know? Is there any possibility that this media single tunnel vision type shit is going to lighten up anytime soon, or you think this is just how it is?
I think it's going to get worse with time.
Wow.
I think the more we let them get away with, the more they will get away with. Hello?
Is independent is independent internet based journalism the way to fight it? Maybe?
I don't know. I think if we could get big enough numbers behind us, I think it would be. I mean, they have all the money and all the bandwidth and all the connections and all the networks, and we have, our stuff is a lot smaller and a lot more divided. We don't have the millions of viewers like NBC or Fox or,
Yeah.
So
That's
until
true.
we can get that, or even the playing field somehow, I'm not sure how to go about doing that.
Well, I guess
you just keep talking. Just keep talking and keep spreading the word. It's what is that saying, Glenn? Speak the truth, no matter how much your voice trembles.
Yep.
Or some variation like that. There. Listening to her final report in the clips there was no trembling in her voice. She was strong in her words. Yeah, she was going to face this head on. If she was a spy or being accused of being a spy, she would not have gone onto TV and said, "Hey, this is what's going on." If she was in fact being labeled, as a covert agent, they would have yanked her and sent her somewhere else to avoid possible exposure. But here's the thing, folks. If they can get away with killing a TV reporter, even a citizen, when that's going to eventually, that shit's going to make its way overseas or end up in Europe or in Australia. It's not just going to be a Turkish problem. It's going to become like Colombia in the 90s, where if you wrote a story about one of the cartels, your car blew up. And if they'll do it over there, you can damn well be guaranteed that will come across the pond. And if they dislike something that you're reporting, they'll make, if they get away with making one person go away, they'll do it again. And I know Turkey is not the bastion of free speech and or freedom of the press, but it should be. The UN needs to get involved in this, not only the U.S. government or the Iranian government. And one thing I will warn the family of this corner of the interweb does get active on your sister's story, they will ask questions. And some of those questions you might not like hearing, but in the search for truth, uncomfortable questions will be asked. And as you're seeing in the chat room, they're asking, who's proven that she wasn't a spy? Who said that she was? People will dissect her life and try and find links between point A and point Z until they come up with the truth. And it may be hard for you for some of the questions that may get asked of you when, folks on the internet get mobilized. They tend to ask really tough questions. And, just know that their hearts are in the right place. And it's about finding the truth. And once they find the truth, shit'll get done. So that's the way it works. So.
Well, I mean, just from what I know, yeah, I think the family knows that. And from what I can say I know, they have nothing to worry about. Serena was exactly as she appeared. She was a seeker of truth. She was determined. She was brave. And I don't think, anybody who points off to these far-off tangents of being a spy or this or that, there's nothing to it. I mean, that's all it is. It's a statement. That's it. There's nothing with it. Meanwhile, everything for how the people in Turkey supported her, how the people everywhere she was assigned supported her and trusted her, that's where the information is. Not on the bullshit speculation side. Everything on the professional journalist side has lots of evidence. It's all the tinfoil stuff that doesn't. I mean, just look at the circumstances, though. It was supposedly a traffic accident, and the Turkish military responds, not the police, in a city. What that? That's not normal. That doesn't... How is that a spy issue? If it was a spying thing, it would be an ambulance pulls up, she gets in, and she's moved to another area of operations. That didn't happen, And like Fatmeh has said, the story out of Turkey has changed 2-3 times. Oh, it was this truck. Oh, no, it was this truck. Oh, look, we found a truck. Where's the driver? What's his name? Is he charged? Is he not charged? Anybody, in my opinion, who has only time to discuss holes in the Serena side of the story is either an idiot or they're on that side on purpose. That's all. They're not.
Can I interject? Oh,
for sure.
Oh yeah, I was gonna just two things about what. First of all, what Pup was talking about a minute ago. He said that eventually it will cross the pond and something will happen here. Some people might say that oh my gosh, what's his name? The reporter that was killed in the accident out here in the car, Michael Hastings.
Yes.
Some say that it already has happened with him. Mm-hmm. And secondly, as you were saying about the people who have all these comments and questions, that's great and that's natural. That's what we started out with in the beginning. Like we didn't know anything about Serena, so we started investigating, and it doesn't take long as you go through and ask these questions. Was it a legitimate accident? Was she really a spy? Was it? They all start. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. I don't believe in half these things people say, but this has more answers than questions. And you look at, like you just said, the accident photos. You look at 2 different trucks, 2 different cars, and why would they do that? Nobody there could snap one picture of Serena in the car. I mean, it just seems too fishy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we should encourage people to ask all the questions, and hopefully the family won't be hurt by them. But those questions lead to the truth, and a lot of us have already gone through most of these questions. We'd be happy if you tweet us or ask us. We'd be happy to go through our information with you and show you why these things aren't true and what really happened as far as we know so far. That
Agreed.
Sorry. Yeah.
Agreed. Absolutely. You got a new caller there, Pup? Oh, where is he? Oh, Puppy's in the screening room. What else can you tell us, Fatmeh? Like, what?
You know, I want to go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, where do we go from here? What's next?
You know, I want to agree with Tammy. My sister fought a really strong war, and I think if people want to ask questions, no matter what the questions are, there's no more being hurt. You know, we've lost, you know, to the highest level of, you know, to the highest level of hurt, we've felt the loss of my sister. And, you know, for her to be my sister and do what she did, for us to stand on the front lines and say, well, no, we're going to be a vulnerable family and say, okay, this happened and you need to believe it. You know, that's my sister. My sister just didn't die from a car accident. Well, no, I'd like to tell them why my sister didn't die from a car accident. And I'd like to give them evidence why my sister didn't die from a car accident. So those questions, they wouldn't hurt me. It would make me happier to tell people exactly what the facts that we have and what happened. I wouldn't want to take this in a simple way or people to feel bad for me. I don't want anybody to feel bad for me or my family. What I want is I want what she deserves. I want answers. I want investigations. And to get those things, questions need to be asked. And me and my family are more than willing to answer any questions.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I have a very, very, very well-versed individual on the line that would like to ask you a question. I'm going to bring him on, but first there's a reporter that your mother, who I just spoke to, was going to... Oh, where'd they go? Oh, they put their hand up and then they put their hand down. I'm going to take a stab at this because I think this is them. Hi, is this... oh, she told me your name.
Yes,
and then
this is Farah Atouli, Serena's best friend calling from Beirut.
Hi there. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's good that you finally got on, Farah. It's nice to hear you. Thank you for calling.
Actually, thank you for opening the subject. Thank you for hosting Serena Shim's best friend. Thank you for hosting Fatmeh Shim, her sister. Thank you for actually allowing us to contribute.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, you worked with Serena in journalism in Lebanon, is that correct? Or in Turkey?
Yes, I worked with Serena in Beirut. I worked for PressTV, and then I worked for another channel. I worked for Serena since 2007. And I left PressTV, but she continued working for that station.
And what
we were mates for a very long time.
Oh. So what have you got to say about the professionalism of Serena and the way she conducted herself on the job? Do you know, is there any question at all that she was nothing but a good ethical journalist?
Actually, I'm pretty sure that, of course, her sister is online right now. I'm pretty sure that journalists have contributed. They have said enough. I'm sure that her sister explained the wider vision of her sister's personality. Actually, from a journalistic perspective, Serena on the ground was a very professional, hard-working, enthusiastic journalist. I mean, we learned a lot from her, especially me. She started anchoring for PressTV in 2007. It was her first experience. It was my first experience too. At the same time, we began the first step in this field. We had different personalities. I had to be with her all the time just to imitate some of the actions that she does on the air. It was really funny how she can actually turn a very serious subject and dissect it and make it easy for listeners to actually see. and to actually be interested to continue watching to the last minute. She proved herself in a very short period of time to be a very hard-working war correspondent, as PressTV nominated her just a year and a half later to go around the world and broadcast on the ground. They sent her to the most dangerous locations. They sent her to Ukraine, they sent her to Syria, they sent her to Libya, they sent her to Syria, they sent her to Turkey. If she wouldn't have proven herself for these years, past years, that she's and up to the standards, they wouldn't have risked that. They wouldn't have nominated her. They wouldn't have sent her. I mean, I still remember up to this moment how she used to call me and actually say that the head of PressTV was very proud of what she was doing. She had a very serious and straight connections with him directly because of how close she was, because of how hardworking she was. Of course, she was inspiration to every one of us, especially us in journalism. And that's why radio stations like yours, that's why how programs like yours, shows like yours, actually shed the light on her own achievements and at the same time inspired others to know more about this brave woman that actually recorded a huge sign in history and taught journalists how to be good and hardworking journalism. And that's why I'm very proud talking to you today. I'm very proud that actually I have the chance to either me or her sister or any member of the family. And I speak, of course, on the behalf of every one of her friends. I do believe that we are really excited that we have now a door that can listen to us, a door that can actually open wide ranges to other journalists to be interested to speak about it, to speak up at least. After a year of leaving us, we had no chance to actually go on television. We had no chance to go on radio stations. We had no chance to speak to journalists simply because they were banned, simply because they were out of sight, simply because they were afraid to speak about her. And now that we have the chance, I'm grateful for that. And I hope that other journalists and other radio hosts, other TV hosts will be inspired by this conversation held today. And they will open wider doors for us to speak up. At least if we won't call for her justice and succeed, then we will succeed in making the world know today who Serena Shim was and who the brave journalist was.
Absolutely. That is a beautiful statement, Farah. Thank you. Now, you continue to work in journalism. Have you seen any evidence of reporters being instructed not to mention Serena in any reporting?
For sure, at the beginning of the situation, Serena's story was a very critical one. A critical one to an extent that you're not even allowed to ask what happened. You're not even allowed to follow up with the situation. I do believe that I've seen journalists who wanted to tackle the situation, but they were banned. Some of the reasons that were submitted were we do not have enough information, so what will you go on TV and talk about? I do know today that as a journalist, you need an evidence to actually convict, or you need an evidence to blame someone for anything. But I wish that they would have allowed these journalists not to go on television and blame, but at least go on television and speak about her. That's the point. Speak about her. Speak about her achievements as a journalist. Let the world know about her. Today we're not blaming any kind of side because we do not have any vital evidence. But we do believe that her story is a very mysterious story that has a lot of question marks at the end of the statement. And when a question mark is found, then as a journalist, you are allowed to open the subject and speak about her widely. Why would they be banned to go on television and say anything about her? Is it because of lack of information? That's not right. Even if we do not have enough information about who made the crime or about who was behind the crime, or even if there is a crime at the beginning, we do know that this girl was threatened just a day before her assassination. And that by itself requires investigations on a higher level, on an international level. That by itself requires journalists to write a scoop about her. That by itself allows it to be a major headline dominated by some important newspapers along the region. That by itself is a story And that's what actually shook us as a family, shook us as our friend. I mean, where are these journalists that are supposed to be interested? I mean, don't we look for scoops? Isn't that what our job is about? To be the first to actually write the story, to be the first to grab the attention about certain stories? Then why were they not interested? And the answer comes as in, because they were simply banned to be interested. Because Serena's story is not a normal story. It's a story that is concerned on an international level. A story where countries, vital allies of the United States, are actually involved in the story, and that's why we're not allowed to speak about her. That's really sad. That's really devastating. But again, we say nothing will keep us silent. I know today that we're not convicting any side because of lack of evidence, but we do know that we have the right to stand and call for justice for Serena Shim and thank all those that are working on that behalf.
Absolutely. And, you know, you cut
out there, Pop. You cut out there. We didn't hear that.
All right.
Excuse me,
can you
repeat your question, please?
Yeah. Where are you presently working out of? What country are you in now? Are you still in Turkey, or are you in a different place now?
No, I've never been to Turkey. I am working in Lebanon. This is where I met Serena, in Beirut. I'm still working inside Lebanon as a TV host on Sahar TV. But I have never traveled to be a war correspondent or to be a correspondent abroad. Of course, these kind of tasks were left to the brave women. I am not up to the expectations when it comes to bravery. I'm always learning from my best friend. I hope that one day I would have the courage to actually stand in front of the military. Bombs, shields, bombs will be behind me. Airplanes will be hitting civilians, and still I will be broadcasting live on the ground. I wish that anyone would actually reach to that point, especially if they knew how she was functioning all the time. They would be purely inspired. When she sent the news of ISIS being transported from Turkey to Syria using World Organization vehicles and trucks, no one did that. When she submitted the news, no one did that. When they did it, it was a few months later. And sorry to say that we're speaking about international agencies that failed in submitting the message that Serena submitted 2 months previously. It's a shame. It's a shame that one person was allowed and one person succeeded in capturing images of these ISIL, of these Takfiri groups, being transported from Turkey to Syria and vice versa. She was the first on the ground. While if we look at the other dimension, the international news stations, international agencies failed in submitting bad news. And probably to an extent we can go as further as saying that probably they knew about it, but they did not have the bravery to speak about it. And that's why Serena Shim is supposed to enter history, because she was alone out there. She was alone with her camera. She was on a one-man show. She did everything alone, and she succeeded, and she demands respect.
And that leads me to my follow-up on that. Have you spoken to any of your peers? Have they expressed concerns with maybe privately just picking up the story that your friend was covering? And if they have thought about it, are they now fearful that if they do touch it, something bad might happen to them as well?
Actually, today we are not wasting our time by speaking to fake or coward journalists. Today we actually look at those journalists who are brave, those who are willing to write a normal script about her, a powerful script about her, to speak domestically in Lebanon. And to answer specifically your question, here in Beirut, what I was trying to do for a long period of time, since, of course, her departure, I was trying to actually grab the attention of domestic journalists who work for different TV channels in Lebanon. I brought actually journalists from correspondents from various channels who are opposing each other at some point. They were interested to speak about her from a journalistic perspective, to say about from a professionalism, from the hard work that she tackled. They would not want to take it from a political perspective. I respected that, and I moved forward with it. I mean, today, and I already spoke that to her family. I already said, if any journalist is willing to say one good word about her, was willing to write one normal sentence about her, then respect to him, respect to her. Today, these mates in Lebanon, they were gathered together. They were interested that they had someone in Lebanon that reached that much of achievements in a very short period of time. They were willing to actually join together and write and actually say one word that were joined in a report, in a flash, and we're still working on that. It will be broadcasted on most Lebanese channels. God help us to achieve in doing it. But today, that's the latest achievement. That's the only achievement that we were trying to do. We hope that we can work harder on the issue. We are actually active on Twitter. Her mother is working really hard behind the scenes. She cannot sleep day and night. Day and night, she's continuing with the story that she began since day one. I mean, this woman's ability to actually move forward and grab the attention of a lot of people, that by itself is a success. Even her sister is really, really, really working more than anyone can expect. She says, if we are today moving forward, because Serena is moving us forward, not because we are powerful and moving forward. I do agree to her words strongly. And even today, believe me speaking to you live on the radio from Beirut, it's not me speaking, it's her energy, it's her power, the power that she left in us, the power that she left and the message that she wanted us to send across.
Well, I certainly hope that I'm helping that spirit, because I think that's the reason we're all here tonight. That is the reason. I think that's an excellent pinpoint.
Today, I wanted to actually shed the light on the fact that what you're doing today as a journalist should be an inspiration, of course, to other journalists. I'm sorry I haven't actually met you, or I don't know your name, but I do believe in what you're doing. I'm grateful for that. We don't need to know each other. Just the action on the ground speaks louder than any words. Today, for you to cover the story in this way, to interview her sister, who is the dearest one to her heart, to actually have the ability to give us a chance to speak up, I'm saying you're respected by us. You're respected by other journalists who are willing to do what you're doing, and they haven't succeeded in it. You actually brought our pains. You allowed us to speak. You opened the door for us. And that by itself, I do say again, I don't know you, but I do know that by you allowing the story to come up to light, you are, of course, succeeding in the field that you are going on with.
Well, thank you very much. And just as much as you would seek to praise us for hosting the show, as the hosts, we praise you and Tim and Fatmeh, and for Mom Judy in the chat, we thank the family and the people close to the family who brought it to us, who presented it to us, and we knew we had to do it. So, I mean,
exactly, and I do wish
the family.
That it's an inspiration to others. Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. Yep. Without her mother's hard work, we wouldn't have been here today. Without Fatmeh's insistency of continuing the path of her sister, you wouldn't be here today. I mean, when the family unites for the sake of justice, unite for the sake of the people to know who their daughter was, who their sister was, that by itself is an achievement. I hope that this story today that you tackled is an inspiration to other journalists to keep her name on the table. It's an inspiration to politicians to actually allow us to speak more about her. It's an inspiration to historians to record her name in history. It's an inspiration to every woman, to every man, to every mother, to every child, to everyone that wants to live in liberty, with freedom, with justice. I hope it's an inspiration to us. Please go on the internet, read about her. She's a brave woman. She's an amazing woman. She's a woman that every woman wants to be like. Today we're trying to introduce her to you. I mean, she is not even with us, but she is allowing us to say what we are saying. She's allowing us to move forward with justice, with liberty, with freedom. Please read about her. Please write about her. Please understand about her, not because for the sake of Serena, but for the sake of humanity, because she worked for humanity. She was more than a journalist. She spoke on the behalf of those who do not have the ability to speak up. Today, when we look at Turkey, we do see Kurds. Up till this moment, the children of Kurds say thank you to Serena Shim because she spoke on their behalf. Mm-hmm. She spoke on their pain. She wasn't working for any political agenda. Rather, she was working for the sake of humanity, to send the right message across to the worldwide. She wasn't petrified. She wasn't afraid. Nothing stopped her. She had two beautiful, adorable children, just like any mother. But still, she made the decision to leave them with a beautiful father, with a protective sister, with a supportive mother. She made that choice for the sake of humanity. Does not that demand respect? Does not that demand us as journalists to stand up and say, thank you, Serena Shim? Google about her, read about her, post her pictures everywhere. Let history record her. Let our children know her. Let every journalist today who is beginning to walk on that path of journalism to be inspired by her. Let her be a school of art, a school of journalists, a school for humanity, a school for democracy, a school for liberty, and a lesson to us all, a lesson of how to be living in an unjust world, injustice, but still come up with information, to still be threatened, but go on television live and say, I am not a spy. I work for humanity. I'm a normal journalist who is doing her job on the ground normally with courage.
Well, that is the best statement I've heard to describe so many things in that amount of time. Thank you, Farah. That was amazing. I mean, that described everything about Serena that's on the web in that amount of time. That was fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak up. Thank you very much. It's not an easy subject at all. Thank you for allowing us to do that. That's exactly what we wanted. That's exactly what her sister wanted. Their pain is huge. Their pain is huge. There is no words to even describe it. At least they demand recognition. They demand respect. I mean, these people are supposed to be recorded in history with their daughter. They made her mother, her father. They were the pure support to her. Don't they demand any politician to send them condolences? I mean, that's the least that we can do, and that's the least what is demanded.
Absolutely.
I'm going to grab Anti-Crisis because, believe it or not, we're almost at the end of hour number 4 of a marathon for Your Best Friend, and the host of the next show, which is coming up in a minute and a half, is Anti-Crisis 73. They're doing Third Rail Radio, and they're continuing this story, and we're on with Fatima, with Tim, Canadian Glenn, and with Farah.
Hey, thanks a lot, Pup. What a compelling show. Let me know if I have any audio problems. And, I welcome everybody to join us on the next episode that'll be continuing to deal with the story. This incredibly important story. And I will drop the link in the chat in a second. But what a great show, and thanks for the family for joining. And I'm really just kind of collecting my thoughts. But jump over to the Third Rail Radio site next through Rebelution Radio, and we'll open up the lines and have some free-form discussion. We'd love to have...
okay, 20 seconds. You're probably going to get cut off, so...
Okay, well, let me let you go, and
Fatima,
great show, and
Tim, and Farah, thank you very much.
Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for calling.
We'll bust our ass
to you.
and get justice for her.
Thank
she
you.
Deserves it.
Thank you very much.
Godspeed.
All righty.
All right. Thank you very much, you guys. We've gone off live broadcast now, so we're just us chit-chatting here.
We're shutting her down. We got to get out of here.
Yeah. So,
somebody's got to go smoke. But I mean.
Well, thank you very much for calling in, Fatmeh. I know it was a hassle, but thank you very much.
No, it wasn't a hassle at all, and I love the way you guys really bluntly say how you want to kick ass and do all the things you wouldn't have put in any other words. You guys are awesome.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Good luck tomorrow on Op UK Radio. That should go well for you. I hope the Brits and the Europeans over there raise a big stink for you. Tim's
He's
still
on
there?
the board. He's on the board, but he didn't make any noise. Well, if we're in OT anyway, we should get the hell out of here, eh?
Yeah, time to go over to Anti-Crisis show. Good job, Glenn. Fantastic.
Good job, Pup. I had a lot of fun. I think we did a lot of good. That was an outstanding show.
Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. So,
all right.
Much love to you. We'll see you over on the other show.
All righty. It's over.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.